Hi everyone. So this video is why Black women are being targeted in the workplace for Black women healing from toxic jobs. My name is Marissa Price. I am a social worker, healer, freelance educator, trauma educator, co-host of the upcoming Job Liberation Virtual Summit for Black women coming up May 16th through 18th, which you can register for. Early registration pricing ends today. I'll link that in the chat. But this video is just on kind of exploring why. And spoiler alert, a lot of the reasons are historical, right? So the ways in which Black women's labor has been devalued throughout history, we see that showing up in the workplace so often. And this is a global issue because systems like white supremacy, right, patriarchy, all of the points of intersection in these systems show up in the workplace. And when we spend so much of our lives at work, again, 8, 10, 12, 14 hours, plus sometimes in the workplace, which are just inhuman demands that are placed on us. But we're spending so much of our time in the workplace, and that's why a lot of these issues are showing up there, right? Over the course of the past 2.5 years that I have been studying, learning from other people's experiences in the workplace, reflecting on my own, just realizing how much, first of all, how similar our experiences are. If you are in a chat, if you've ever been in a chat like this one before and just heard the different experiences of us in the workplace, right, as Black women, you would think that we all worked at the same job. That's how similar they are. And so what are the reasons for that? That's what we're going to get into today. So welcome if you are joining live or if you're watching on the replay. Please like this video so that's shared with other Black women. Please comment below if you're watching the replay or live, your experiences if you feel called to. But first, I just want to kind of check in and see how everyone is doing. Hey, Marissa. Oh, it's good to see you here. Thank you for being here. Yes. Yeah, how is everyone doing? There's a lot going on, right? A lot going on in the world, in the country, if you are from the US. Chaos, right? So there's pure chaos ensuing in a lot of different places. A lot of it is very, very sad, right? We see, again, even relating it to the topic, progress, what little progress had been made, right? Because we're trying to do all these things within systemic structures that are pushing back against us at every turn. That's why it's so exhausting. But we see that progress being rolled back, right? Trying to roll us back decades, centuries by repealing, right? By being honest about how people actually feel about us in the workplace, with the lies that have been told to us so often. I've shared my story before about working in a DEI style role, right? Racial equity, trying to promote, advocate for clear issues and wrongs in society and being told, right, that I was being brought in to do this. And then people not wanting to hear what I had to say, truly. And so we're seeing like the mask fall off, which can cause a lot of different feelings, right? For me, it's been kind of a relief in a weird sense. Like all these feelings that I have been feeling for so many years of educational institution that harmed me, job that harmed me. The truth has really been brought to light during these times. So there can be relief, there can be anger, fear, disappointment. So anything that you're feeling at these times, I want to say like they're real, right? And so validate your own feelings. There's a reason why you're feeling these things, right? Because it is scary, it is fearful. And at the same time, we have so much power within us. If we look back again throughout history and the different points that we have had to take our power back and turn inward and really build community and fortify a sense of we have this, right? A sense of ownership over our skills, over our talents, over the things that we need to progress despite what's happening externally. So yes, so welcome to everyone who's joining. Good afternoon. Thank you for this work. You're so welcome, Ayana. Thank you for being here. I appreciate this. Thank you. Hey, Leslyn. Always good to see you here. Hey. Yes. Yeah. And so, how is everyone feeling? I would love to just start with that. As we talk about a heavy topic, right? Black women being targeted in the workplace. So, I want to start there. Like, yes, we are being targeted in the workplace. Yes. Because that's where some of the gaslighting can start, right? No, you're not being targeted. This is what happens to everyone. This is just something you're supposed to expect. Being in the workplace, right? In exchange for a paycheck, you're supposed to willingly give up your mental health, your physical health, your life expectancy is supposed to be shortened. These are all the messages that we receive, right? That are trying to convince us to be okay with our own oppression. No, these are not things that we should come to expect in exchange for anything. Our life expectancy, again, we have seen very real examples of our lives being shortened in many different ways as Black women because of our experiences in the workplace. Again, when you come from such a work-centric country like the US, given the foundations, right? We know why that is. Enslavement, right? And we have to understand the foundations the more I'm realizing and studying in order to understand what's happening to us in 2025 in so many of these workplaces. Because our labor has been devalued, right? People have come to expect us to do all this labor, right? Jackie Abram, one of the speakers, the bonus speakers at the summit coming up, she's talked about this, like the mule, right? And Zora Neale Hurston has spoken about this too, the mule that we're expected, the role that we're expected to play in so many of these workplaces, just keep piling on work on top of work on top of work. And we're not supposed to say anything about it. We're supposed to be grateful that we even have a job, right? That's messaging of oppressors, that you are supposed to be grateful that you're being harmed. And so this channel is a safe place for us to push back against those ideas, reclaim our power, which I'll be talking about at the summit coming up. How to take your power back, own your skills, rebuild your self-worth. Because a lot of these building blocks, once you realize this may be a past wound that's showing up in this workplace. Someone told you that you weren't worthy, that you weren't valuable, that you could be talked to anyway. A lot of these are rooted in childhood experiences, which is why I have such an emphasis on healing from childhood trauma to really heal the adult wounds too, that tell us that we have to stay in workplaces that are harming us, that we have to stay around people who talk down to us. If you look back and reflect, there's a chance that you'll see this pattern that's been at play for some time. And still knowing that you have the power to intervene is so important. Even if those things did occur and they tried to strip you of your power, now that you have the self-awareness to lean back into it, no, I'm not allowing you to talk to me like that, right? To treat me in this way, to underpay me, to add on work outside of my job description. No. And people don't like us to say that, which is why I had the chance to be on a panel that Glamazini led. Rashni Cope, who is one of our summit speakers on Stephanie Perry's channel this weekend, and her talking about that, right? Her asking the question, why does it make people so mad when we take our power back? And again, understanding the structure, the system, how little we have been valued in these societies when it comes to intersectionality, right? White supremacy, patriarchy, colorism, texturism, featureism, colonialism, ableism, ageism, fat phobia. The list goes on and on. And so that can really give you the understanding of why things look the way that they do. And also the point, again, of intervention with your own power and building collective power to resist against these forces. So yeah, I'm gonna check the chat. Hey, Carla. Thank you so much for joining. New subscriber from Stephanie's channel. Oh, welcome. Glad to catch you live. Hello, everyone. Hello. Welcome. Yes, welcome. Thank you, Leslie. Yeah, I'm ready for the sabbatical coaching. I have seen enough. Ooh, thank you for this. Yeah. And thank you for this too. Great panel this weekend. Yeah, so please check that out on Stephanie Perry's channel. I'll link her channel here. I'm sure everyone's already subscribed, but if you're not, I was on a panel discussion with lovely ladies who are traveling abroad or who have moved abroad. I moved abroad as part of the exit strategy from a very toxic work environment that literally tried to destroy me at certain points. Um, yeah, truth tellers, I'm sure you know that feeling, right? When you are brought in literally because the basis of my role was to talk about issues, right, around racial equity. The organization was not prepared for that, even though I was brought in to do that. And so there was a bunch of points of tension, of racial trauma that I experienced in this work environment. And so now, 2.5 years later, almost, healing, still healing, very much still in the process of healing, processing what I experienced, externalizing, which I talk about so often. That environment was incredibly toxic and traumatic, right? I came in with my skills. People weren't prepared for them. There was lying going on. And how can I recover and still safeguard those skills and remind myself that I still have them? That's the process that I'm in. Something we'll be walking you through at the upcoming Job Liberation Virtual Summit for Black women that I'm co-hosting, Dr. Kamani, who is a licensed clinical social worker. Therapist. But she will be, her and I came together we were brought together, I think. So I stumbled across her YouTube channel in the toxic job that I was in, having absolutely no understanding of what was happening to me. Internalizing all the chaos in the environment as something that I was doing. That's why I started therapy. And I use the employee assistance program. So if you are still in a job, check out that program to see if that's offered by your job, because that can provide you with free therapy sessions. If you are just kind of like, where do I even begin? And I'll put that in the chat. It's called Employee Assistance Program for free therapy sessions through your job. And so that's kind of the irony. I started this while I was still at that job, had free therapy sessions. My therapist ended up reflecting back to me, it's not you, it's the job. And so that kind of like was the catalyst to everything. Once she reflected that back to me, because so often we think it's literally something that we're doing or that we're not doing, which can lead to the spirals, anxiety, depression, self-doubt. Oh, good. Hey, good to see you. I'm using it now. I love to hear that. Yes. Yes, please check that out, y'all. And this will be in your employee handbook. You can just search for this. If it's an e-copy, flip through it for different benefits that your job may provide. Employee assistance program to provide you with free therapy sessions. That is what I did as the first step, really, after stumbling across Dr. Kamani's channel. So yes. Hey, Colette. Good to see you. Also, please subscribe to Colette Elizabeth's channel. I don't know the link, but I will put it here on the screen. She has amazing videos on taking your power back as well. Understanding if you're in a toxic job, it's not you. She is a fellow toxic job survivor. So yes, please subscribe to her channel as well. So good to see you here. Kicking it with Kim, Redefining Hustle. I love that name. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good to see you here. Yes. Yeah, and so it can be disorienting. It can be very disorienting when you are going through toxicity, especially when you have been brought in to do the job, right? So you're actually excelling beyond your job description, probably doing more responsibilities than you've been called in to do. You're excelling, and then someone's insecurity is triggered, right? That's the concept of from pet to threat, coined by Dr. Keisha Thomas, Dr. Rosemary Phelps, Dr. Bailey as well, 3 Black women professors, which has really described so many of our experiences in the workplace, from pet to threat. Oh, you're so welcome, Colette. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing everything that you share. Yeah. Yeah, from pet to threat. Please Google this and you will see their research, which has been so healing, eye-opening as I even think of like back through my time in school. Starting in elementary school, I talked about this on my channel, being a Black girl in white schools, right? Constantly having teachers try to diminish what I was doing, try to, again, pick apart, dim my light. And it becomes like a pattern over time, the more that you're able to recognize it. And that gives you more power too, because you're able to, again, externalize what you're experiencing. This is a pattern of oppression at play that Black women face over and over and over and over again throughout our lives. And it is intentional. It is a process of trying to break our spirits. It is, right? This is not a case of implicit bias. This is explicit mistreatment, harm, oppression to make us doubt ourselves, to make us silence our voices, question what we know to be true, downplay our skill sets. The list goes on and on. This is very intentional. So it can look like being constantly scrutinized or over policed, passed over for promotions despite your qualifications, being labeled as intimidating or aggressive when you express an opinion, microaggressions that escalate into outright discrimination. So let me know if you have experienced any of these things, if you feel comfortable sharing, of course. And the emotional toll, chronic anxiety, often, depression, burnout, feeling isolated, which is why places like this on YouTube, Black women YouTube creators have, the amount of healing that I have been able to do by hearing other people's stories, being in the chat, us sharing what we've gone through so that it doesn't feel so isolating. Because when you are in it, it can feel like you're the only one experiencing this in the entire world. And that's when we have the tendency to internalize. If I'm the only one who's experiencing it, then it must be me. That's the power of community. You're able to see, hear from other people, connect it to your own experiences, and realize it's not you. The system is toxic, right? And there's a level of freedom that you can access once you have that understanding. So let me know how you're feeling, if anything resonates. So why it's happening again, a lot of these are historical and systemic. The historical roots, right? How Black women, we have been positioned often as threats in systems not built for us, not designed for us, not designed for our brilliance, our level of understanding and awareness, the skills that we come in with. The systems will literally try to push us out. Shout out to Melanie Gowdy, who was on Dr. Kamani's channel a couple years ago, but her interview was very life-changing for me. Her sharing that I have to have the understanding when I walk into an environment, because of just the gifts, talents, and skills that I possess, the system will try to push me out eventually. So I have to walk into every single environment having that understanding and having an exit plan before I even start. That someone's going to be triggered, someone's going to be intimidated eventually. Because it always, if I look back throughout my life, it's probably like a year or two, and then it starts. So it doesn't start off toxic, which can be confusing too. And then someone gets triggered, someone gets intimidated, and then I have to exit. And so having that radical acceptance, if you are the same way, if you've experienced the same thing, that when you walk into a new environment, having an exit strategy already. When it starts, when the mistreatment begins, I already know my next plan. So I don't have to feel like I'm chained to whatever they're trying to give me. That can be a point of power too. Hey, always good to see you. I vote yes. It's a resident baby boomer just stopping by to offer support and encouragement. I appreciate that. Grateful that you're doing this for yourselves. Yes, we appreciate you for being here. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes. And the power of generational knowledge sharing, right, cannot be overlooked. And let me put the link for the summit in the chat again. If you'd like to register, early pricing ends today. And you can register at the link on the screen, here in the chat, in the description section if you're watching the replay. But yes, yeah, that's so important for us to be able to share what we have experienced. I did a video on this recently, being young, gifted, and Black. Shout out to Nina Simone, in a toxic environment. It is confusing. It is a lot of disillusionment, anxiety, right? Questioning, do I still have the skills that I came in with? The answer is yes. The answer is yes, if you're also asking yourself that question. And in fact, you've probably honed them and you've probably gained more. Even though you were in a toxic environment that may not have valued you, where you experienced microaggressions, where you experienced being underpaid, the power of your skill set is so strong that they're not able to take that. They may try to convince you that they can, right? And that's a point of power, of personal power, to be able to be like, no, that's something that you can't take from me. No. Colette says, I experienced all of it. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, as a Black female manager, I had no one to talk to about being bullied, harassed, and intentionally isolated. Yeah, it was crazy. Thank you so much. Yeah. And let me pull up Colette's channel real quick so I can put the link in the chat. Yes. Please subscribe to Colette's channel. So incredibly healing, everything that you share, Colette. Seriously. I remember one of your videos, me feeling safe enough finally to comment what I was experiencing. And there's something to write about sharing what you're going through. And I see a comment about therapy. Yes, I want to get to that. Thank you. Being able to share, right? It disintegrates the shame. When we're just day to day operating in harmful environments, we're being harmed, we're being mistreated, and then it just sits inside of us. It kind of festers. We're in our own heads trying to, again, pick ourselves apart, going through the different reels. I could have done this. I should have said this differently. When you're able to share that externally in a safe community, it does something. It disintegrates that shame, right? So that you're able to see that the problem is not you. It is, in fact, the environment. It is, in fact, the job, the person. That's freeing. That's really freeing. So thank you, Colette, for creating that safe space. Dr. Marilyn, yes, therapy is so important, especially as a Black woman. Yes, I'm a psychotherapist. Okay, who has her own therapist? Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And yeah, as social workers, as therapists, mental health professionals, I think that's so important to share that. We too need therapists, social workers, healers, healing coaches, right? Whatever resonates with you, but we need the same thing. We're also processing workplace trauma, childhood trauma, all these things as people. That's so important to share. Yeah. Hey, Chris, first of her name. Good afternoon, listening while walking on a break. I love that. Take time for yourself. Yes. Yes. In the moments, in the periods where you're not doing anything, where you can prioritize yourself through walking, through meditation, yoga, deep breathing, any place where you have a few minutes to spare, where you have a break, prioritize yourself, please. Thank you. Because especially during these times, right, it is chaos. chaotic event after chaotic event. It's self-induced. It's confusing. It's angering. It's disappointing. It's not surprising. But we see the relentless pace at which things are being rolled back after all these messages have been telling us, right, that people have changed their ways, that now we're seen as human, that now we're valued. And to see all of that being so blatantly rolled back is like, okay, no, you weren't imagining it this entire time. No, you weren't. Because the mask is now off. The mask is now off. Yeah. Eve, hello, welcome. Yes, so what is the agenda? I have been in tech for 15 years and I have not experienced so many microaggressions than for the last 2 years. I'm so sorry. And can I just say, like, microaggressions, right? So the term micro meaning individual, one-on-one basis, but they're not small. They're not small. The impact of those things, right? Questioning your authority, questioning what you bring to the role, questioning your skill set, the little aggressive, snide comments that seek to break your self-esteem. The impact of those, though they're microaggressions one-on-one, is not small. And again, it is intentional over time to break our self-esteem, often our self-confidence, our security of self. And it's not small. So thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah. Yeah. And I think the agenda is just that. Is our oppression. Is us questioning ourselves. Is us feeling powerless. Right. And so thank you for being brave. And thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah. Because a lot of us can relate to that. Malaita, hello. And please let me know if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly. Welcome, welcome. Yes, yes. Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah, Lesson says, I think that is the part that people miss. Yeah, micro contextually does not mean small. It just refers to small gatherings like one-on-one. Yes, very important lesson. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, so it's on an individual basis, the aggressive behavior, because it is aggression. No matter if it's like covered in, the nice tone, it's still aggression. And it's just on a one-to-one basis versus it being like macroaggressions, which we see as a result of systems being aggressive towards us, right? Micro is just on a one-to-one level that we experience that. And that can be extremely isolating, which is another tool of oppressors, right? To get you by yourself so that they can take out their, whatever you want to put in there, rage, aggression, insecurity out on you. And that's really the importance and value of community. When we're able to share with each other what we're experiencing, that diminishes their power. Right? Because now you can't convince me that it's just me. Because I've heard from her, that they've also experienced the same thing. And so you're able to put the building blocks together. Now I can see a pattern at play that's trying to contribute to my continued oppression. And now I'm able to resist it so much more effectively. Guarding your inner, that sounds weird, inner parts, but your inner like beauty, the sacred parts of yourself, from people who are trying to extract that from you, knowing that you have the power to do that. No, you're not going to convince me that I'm not worthy, because you've built up such a strong sense of self that it's impenetrable. No matter what you try to throw at me, I'm rejecting it. You've built like a force field around yourself now. That's what taking your power back really enables you to do. Yeah. Oh, Colette, I wasn't ready. I think the agenda is organizational colonization. I have never heard this term before when I tell you. That's it. Organizational colonization. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's deep. And that's so true. Mm-hmm. Ooh. And that's why it's so important to know the foundations. And it may seem like, why are we talking about colonialism? Why are we talking about enslavement? Those things happened so long ago, even though they're still very much ongoing, because they're still showing up. The system is still very much at play. The ways in which we are valued or not valued under systems of colonialism, enslavement, show up every single day in the environments that we're in workplaces. And so it's important to understand, right? These are just an effect, what we're experiencing of the larger things at play that we see happening globally, and Black women being impacted in the workplace, which is where we are targeted so often. With these attacks on our self-esteem, our self-image, our confidence, our skill set, the workplace becomes that place, right, where people are able, they feel like they're able to really get us. And it's evil. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Ashley, welcome. Yeah, I experience this all the time. I honestly want to quit my job. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's so important to, like I said before, to have a strategy, right? Have an exit strategy. Know that you, even if it takes a minute, because it did take me a minute to eventually leave, a year plus of planning, but knowing that I had the power to pivot, knowing that this was not the only thing that I was ever going to do in life, no matter how many, like, how much people try to convince me of that I should be grateful for this coveted position. Okay, that's cool, but I'm being harmed. And I shouldn't have to be harmed in exchange for a paycheck, prestige, right? Title, social standing. And unlearning, it's a process of unlearning those things too. Of status, questioning why is so much emphasis placed on status, on having things, possessions, ownership. Again, going back to the system of colonization, right? Colonialism, telling us that we should value all these things. Now, we should be willing to exchange our health, physical, mental health, in exchange for prestige, social standing, ownership, possessions. So it's a really deep, deep unlearning, uprooting process of coming back into your true essence and knowing that you're not here to be harmed in exchange for nothing. Absolutely not. It's never going to be a fair trade. If it requires me to be harmed, I'm not doing it, or I'm making my exit strategy as soon as I'm aware that that is in place or that message is being fed to me. Yeah. And if you are looking to plan your exit strategy on your timeline, because sometimes this, again, like I said, it can take time. And so there is no rush. This is on your process. If you are experiencing severe harm, and I'm talking about, we have had instances, right, of people expressing suicidality in toxic work environments. That's kind of the break the glass moment where you need to get out as soon as possible, right? Where it may not be where you can be in there for a month, 6 months. And your physical self, right, your mental health, if it's at stake at that level, that's when you really need to, like, get out as soon as possible, right? And that's very serious, because we've seen the impacts of that, right? With the story of Dr. Candia Bailey, the real ramifications of toxic work environments, shortening our lifespans in so many ways. And so if it's harming you at that level, please get out as soon as possible. We need you here. We need you here. Yeah. And I do want to put in 988. But you can call and text. This is the lifeline. If you are having some of those thoughts, because I mean, people have told us this, have shared this with us, right? And I'm referring to Dr. Kamani, who is the co-host of the upcoming Job Liberation Virtual Summit. But people have shared this with us, that it has gotten to that level. That no, it's not just a silly workplace thing that you should expect, right? There's a lightness or like a lightheartedness that people try to put on these issues. And it's really serious, actually, because it's impacting our mental health, our physical health. And so if you are at that stage, please get out as soon as possible, right? And then 988 if you need immediate help in that area. Hey, Critic Chronicles. Good to see you here. Always with the popcorn emoji. I love it. Yeah, I've never heard that term either, but I get it immediately. Yeah, and I agree. Organizational colonization. Colette. Oh, powerful. Mm-hmm. Powerful. Thank you. I'm going to be true to me. Welcome. I love that name. As an administrator working in nonprofit within white women was the worst. Poisonous, infuriating, and confusing. I thought we're really working toward, oh man, this resonates so deeply. Yes, towards the same goals. But nope. Yeah. I so appreciate you sharing this. Yes. The disillusionment. Like you said, I thought we were working towards the same goals. I thought that's what you brought me in for. And the tension that I've been sitting with, right, is we come in often with real and true expectations, intentions, the word I was looking for. We come in with these. Not everyone is operating with those. And so it can be it's like a psychological game that some people are playing through lying, right? Through convincing us that they're actually committed to something that they have no commitment to whatsoever. They're actually working the opposite way to make the issue even deeper. But we're brought in to fix the issue. That's a different level of confusion, of questioning yourself often, when the problem is not you. And again, once you're able to really sit with that truth, that's where freedom starts. If you're still in the environment, sitting with the truth that it's not you. Just start there. And then there's so many points from that will start to connect. You'll be able to see the patterns at play. This person told me this to try to make me tried to convince me that I was not talented, skilled, gifted, because they're actually threatened by my power. They're actually threatened that I can see the truth in what they're doing, and I'm going to call it out because that's just who I am. And how can I now build an exit strategy to extract myself from this environment that's harming me, right? Preserving these really beautiful, essential parts of myself, because when you start taking off parts of yourself to fit into an environment, that's where the spiral often begins. Because we're put here whole, right? How we are is how we're created to be. It's so true. Yep. So intersectionality, going back to the topic, why it's happening, right? Intersectionality, anti-Blackness, systemic racism, misogyny, misogynoir, misogyny specifically directed at Black women, coined by Moya Bailey, ageism, right? Fatphobia, ableism, poverty status, colorism, texturism, featureism, all of these things and how they show up in the workplace to impact Black women. Workplace culture, right? How white supremacy and patriarchy show up in performance reviews. I need to do a whole video on performance reviews. Cultural fit, right? You're not a good fit with the culture. You're not being a member of the team. Tokenism, diversity optics, as we just talked about, without real change or real commitment to whatever you're purporting to be about. Stereotypes at play, right? The angry Black woman, right? Where we express opinions, again, as I talked about, being labeled as intimidating or aggressive, often when our opinions are literally asked for. But then I didn't want you to give that opinion. I wanted you to give one that I was comfortable with. Well, then don't ask for my opinion. It's confusing. It's confusing. Scrolling through the comments here. Leslie says, OMG, yes, if you are being physically harmed and you need a first step, please contact someone in the community. I am here. WhatsApp me, please. Leslie, if you're okay with that. If you're okay. Yeah. I appreciate this offer. Yeah, because it's very important to connect with other people, right? Sometimes we have a tendency when we're being harmed to further self-isolate. Especially if you are experiencing self-gaslighting, doubting your own reality, going down the spiral in your brain. If this environment is familiar to one that you were in at a younger age where you could not leave, right? Connections I've had to make for myself as I'm in this healing journey. You will feel like you can't leave this environment too. Even at, right, age I was at 28, 38, 48, 68, you will still feel like you're in that same environment. And it's a matter of reminding yourself, I'm not at that age anymore. And in fact, I'm saving my younger self now that I have the agency to at this age. I'm no longer tolerating what I was taught that I had to and just expect. That can be a point of power too. Yeah. Yeah, these experiences, right? As we were talking about how we're targeted in the workplace, they can erode our self-worth and confidence, something I'll be talking about at the Job Liberation Virtual Summit. Please register if you're not already. We had over 300 Black women attend last year, and it's life-changing for me too, right? Even as the host, I'm still very much in the healing process, understanding what happened to me, still unpacking it, connecting it to childhood wounds, reclaiming my power. It's a continuous process of understanding the different impacts. So I'll be talking about how to take your power back, own your skills, rebuild your self-worth after a toxic, traumatic work experience. Because again, these things are not small. And I really hate that they're being like taught to us like that. It's the same way if you were bullied in school, right? The same messaging. Oh, this is just part of being a kid, right? Having people traumatize you, bully you, and you should just come to expect it. It's the same message that we get in the workplace often. This is just what you should expect, right? People talking down to you, trying to break your self-esteem, right? Not a big deal. No, it is a big deal. It is. And we deserve so much better than what we're experiencing. And this is an issue impacting Black women globally. A pattern of systemic oppression that continues to show up in workplace after workplace after workplace. And Dr. Kamani and I are saying no more. We refuse to accept or settle for that because the ramifications, the consequences are too real. They're shortening our lifespans. So starting there, they're shortening our lifespans. When you are continue to be exposed to trauma, harm, again, how much of our lives do we spend at work? 8, 10, 12, 14 hours a day. That's going to have an impact on you. Right? So we're pushing back against the message that this is just what we should expect. No, it's not. No, it's not. The impacts can be triggering imposter syndrome, right? Oppression and trauma responses. Again, why it's so important to connect often what you're experiencing in the workplace with what you experienced in childhood. That can be a really strong point of awareness and realization in reclaiming your agency. Now you have the ability to take yourself out of that environment, even if it takes a minute, even if it takes a year, 2 years. And again, if you're being severely harmed, impacted, you're at the point where you can't take another day, please exit, seriously, and preserve yourself. And I'll put the number up here again. And I'm serious. I'm really serious. Yeah. Trauma responses like fight, flight, freeze, fawn. So often I entered into the fawn trauma response. Right? And this is trying to appeal to your oppressor, essentially, to stay safe. These are survival strategies that our brain has developed over time to protect us. So if you can recognize that this environment is triggering a trauma response within me, I got to plan my exit, right? I'm not here to be harmed. I'm not here to be mistreated. I refuse to accept that this is the only thing that I can ever do, because I've proven to myself time after time after time after time. Go back through your history, please. That can be such a huge source of information about who you are, what you've already done, right? You've proven to yourself that you've already pivoted many times before. But when we are in survival mode, sometimes we're not able to access our memories. Right? So our prefrontal cortex, Dr. Kamani has talked about this on her channel, kind of shuts off sometimes in these really toxic, traumatic environments. And we're not able to see a way to plan, see a way to exit, because we're in survival mode. Once you have the awareness is key, that you're in survival mode, then you can start to, right, actively exit that. The points where you're able to breathe. Breath is so powerful. Giovanna will be talking about that at the summit too, which I'm so excited about. As someone who holds her breath as a trauma response. Breath. How breath can really put you back into what's called the parasympathetic nervous system, which is your nervous system when it's at ease, at rest. You're able to process complex thoughts. You're able to plan for the future. That's the power of breath. It can be as simple as that. If you have a few minutes, check in. Am I breathing right now? Or am I holding my breath? Right? That can be really a great way to check back in with yourself. The impacts can be physical health. Like I said, issues from stress. Ooh, that can be a whole video in and of itself, right? The physical impacts of toxic jobs, insomnia, tremors, right? Sometimes hair loss. Even worse, right? Stomach issues, digestive issues. Giovanna just did a post on this, Giovanna May Reese, and let me link her channel too, who is a speaker at the summit as well. She just did a post on this, on breath, how breath can impact the digestive system. So if you are holding your breath in a toxic environment, with how long that we spend at work, in such a work-focused society, What is the impact of that on your health, on your overall health? On your brain health, your body health, your digestive health? You are cutting oxygen off, right, as a result from being in a traumatic environment. So there's a level of self-compassion there, but you're cutting off your oxygen. I never thought about it like that. You're kind of suffocating physically by cutting off your breath as a response, your body's response to stress, to trauma. And what impact does that have on our health? Like I said, these are not light, fun, right, issues that we're experiencing in the workplace. These are deep. These are heavy. These are life impacting. And so to think of it in that context may be helpful if you are still navigating fear, which is very real, knowing that you can still move through fear, as you have already proven to yourself in the past. You've had to move through fear. Remind yourself of your track record, of your story, the different points where you have had to stare fear in the face and say, I'm still moving. I'm still moving. I'm still doing this. I'm still strategizing. I'm still getting into community. I'm still reclaiming my breath. So fear doesn't have to be a barrier, right? Know that fear will probably be there for a while. I'm still navigating that 2.5 years out. The fear, the paranoia, which I'll be talking about, these things are very real, but that is not going to keep me from moving forward. And I guarantee you, right, if you tell yourself your own life story, I guarantee you there are many points where you've had to do the same thing. Oh, I love this. Actually, I have a blog post on imposter syndrome. I swear you are not an imposter. You're just not them. Ooh. You're not an imposter. You're just not them. Leslie, thank you. Yeah. So important. Yeah, Colette says leadership in toxic workplaces is replete with the incompetent, the immature, and the insecure, the 3 I's. The incompetent, the immature, and the insecure. Yes. And again, please subscribe to Colette's channel. She talks about this on her channel. Let me put her scroll back up. Give me 1 second. There we go. But yeah, shout out to Black women YouTube creators. Seriously. There are not enough words of gratitude for everything that has been shared. The strategies, the information, the support, the reflecting back that it's not you, that you're not the problem, that you have the power to pivot and move and literally design your life. That's still a new concept to me. I'm learning that, right? You're in charge of designing your life. You don't have to follow the pathway that has been laid out for you that we've been told is the only way to follow. If it's not bringing you joy, if you don't like it, it can be that simple. You can go a different route. And it is through Black women YouTube creators who have literally reflected that back to me over and over again. Because sometimes it takes repetition to really sit with it. Because what you're doing is resisting systems of oppression. And I want to emphasize that too. That's why it feels so big and challenging and sometimes undoable. You are resisting systems that tell you that you shouldn't be valued, that you shouldn't have agency over your own life, that you shouldn't be able to pivot, that you should be grateful for whatever people give you. That's why it feels so intense inside. The prospect, right? When it first comes into our thoughts, maybe I can do this, but why does it feel impossible? The messaging that you've internalized probably throughout your life that has told you that that's off limits to you, that other people can design their lives, but that's not for you. right? And so it's constantly coming back into the realization that that's for you too. Your life is yours too. You don't have to put up with mistreatment. I just want to say that too. So reclaiming our power, what we can do. So awareness again is an act of resistance, knowing that this is systemic, what we're experiencing in the workplace. Strategies to navigate, maybe documenting interactions, which Anne-Marie Archer will be talking about, the anti-HR lady at the Job Liberation Virtual Summit coming up May 16th through 18th. Early registration pricing ends today, April 15th. If you'd like to register, I just put it in the chat. Also on the screen if you're watching the replay. But yeah, how do you document discrimination to make a strategy, severance strategy? Anne-Marie has helped a lot of Black women really understand, right, the power that you have to document and why it's so important to keep notes on your personal devices, please, because surveillance in toxic work environments is real. But to negotiate potentially a severance agreement in the future, which Anne-Marie will be talking about at the summit on day 2. Building community support systems, a way to reclaim our power. Just like this in the chat, as I mentioned, YouTube can be so pivotal in that. Therapy, mental health support. I also offer coaching. So if you are in the process of healing and liberating yourself, either you're still in a toxic work environment or you're healing from the aftermath, as a formally trained social worker, I help Black women navigate that process. And you can book a breakthrough session with me here. Let me put the link here. So this is a link for that. Making an exit plan, which we will help you do at the summit coming up May 16th through 18th. You can yes, please know that you are so powerful. Know that you're powerful. Even if it takes you a second, a year, 2 years, 3 years to build your strategy, your exit strategy, know that it's possible. Because we have like over 15 Black women speakers at the summit who have done the same thing. They've made a strategy, they have pivoted out, and now they are sharing their guidance or resources, strategies, support to help you do the same. Because when we try to tackle this journey alone, that's where it gets exhausting. That's where it can feel isolating. And so it's important on your time to be in community, to be able to do these things, to kind of alleviate some of the pressure off yourself, to have to find all the answers, because that's what Dr. Kamani and I had to do before we had this information, which is one of the reasons we created the summit. We had to cobble all the pieces together by ourselves. And so now it's in one place with the Job Liberation Virtual Summit, and we'd love to help you make your plan, whatever that looks like for you, on your timeline. So there is no rush. Again, I think both of us, as me being a social worker and Dr. Kamani being a therapist, right, we understand that this is a really deep process. It's not like something that you can just do overnight, right? Often, unless you are being severely harmed, please exit as soon as possible. But sometimes it takes a minute to even sit with the fact that you're in a toxic job, that you're being traumatized, and that you don't deserve that. If that's all you have experienced, sometimes that takes a second to get to that level of awareness, right? And we all have our own journeys. That took me a while to get to that point. And so it's on your timeline. The process is on your timeline, right? There is no rush. There is no pressure. You have to do this. No, everyone's journey is individual, unique. We all have different life circumstances that we have to plan for, right? So just to emphasize that, taking your time, whatever that looks like for you, is so important. But knowing that you have the power to pivot whenever you feel called to, whenever you feel like it's ready, and that we will be here to support you whenever that moment comes. So just to wrap up this video, it's been, a little bit over an hour. Thank y'all so much for being here. I'm going to go through the comments too. But just to remind you, as we close out, you're not alone. You are certainly not powerless. Again, if you feel powerless, please reflect back on all the times where you have had to move with fear, where you've had to take your agency back, where you've had to make that really scary decision that freedom was on the other side, right? Joy, things that we are inherently kind of drawn to, that was on the other side. You've had to navigate this already. And reminding yourself of that can help to alleviate some of the fear too, I found. Because if it feels new, it feels like something you've never done before, that can add to the level of uncertainty and like avoidance. But sitting with the fact that you've already done it, you're still the same person, you still have the same skills, they've actually strengthened over time, despite being in a toxic work environment. They cannot take your power from you, no matter how hard they try. They cannot take your self-worth from you. You can always rebuild it, right? It's never lost and it's never too late. So yeah, I think that's it. I think that's it for today. Let me go through the comments. I appreciate y'all again for sharing your experiences. If you're watching on the replay, please like this video and please comment below if anything resonates with you. Yeah, Colette, I appreciate you sharing this. I was afraid to go to sleep because I didn't think I'd wake up. My daughter had to call the ambulance several times because my blood pressure was at stroke levels. So my girls forced me to retire. Yeah. Ooh. And that just speaks to the level of severity of the harm done in these work environments. It's not small. It's not to be brushed off. It's not to feel like you have to just endure until this time, because sometimes our bodies can't last right to that time. Something I've had to sit with, right? It is severe mistreatment, it is severe harm often. And really sitting with the truth of that, if you're still questioning, right? Should I stay? Should I make my exit strategy? The fact that you're questioning that, I would invite you to kind of probe deeper into that. Because sometimes it's those initial questions that come up that are guiding us towards the truth of what we're in. Yeah. Lit twerker. Oh, I love that name. Thank you for being here. Yeah, they make light of the behavior so that they may in turn characterize your response as overly sensitive or aggressive if you strongly reject them 100%. Thank you for sharing that. Yep. Yeah, because it's a way to diminish what you're saying, the truth of what you're seeing, of what you're witnessing. It's a way to make you question, right? It's planting seeds of doubt within you that weren't there before. And then we have an internal reel that forms. So in the moments where we start to, right before we start to just call it out, that's wrong. Now all of a sudden you're questioning yourself. Now you're picking yourself apart. Maybe I'm just, I just talked about this on a recent video. Maybe I'm just being too much. Maybe I'm just being too sensitive. Maybe I am being aggressive, right? Everything that they're trying to project onto you, if you internalize that, right, that reel going on over and over again on repeat can be it can lead to a dangerous spiral. And so to even be cognizant of that, if you're in these environments still, and pushing it off, the visual of building a force field around yourself, right? I'm not taking that in. Now I know what it is. Now I know why it's being thrown towards me, and I reject it. I'm not taking that in, which can be difficult for those of us who are sensitive people. Because we feel, right? We feel deeply. We take things in to the heart. But understanding that you still have the power to reject. You don't have to take in everything that people try to throw at you, because they're not doing it with good intentions. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Yeah. I just had this convo with a young lady fresh out of the intern program. It's not you. Powerful. Yep. Powerful. Nelson says, Jesus, I'm so glad I left before I got to that level. Every time I hear these stories, my heart breaks and I can only cry. Know you are loved, sisters. Yes. Yes. Just that. Know you're loved. Yeah. Know that you're loved. Yeah. Yeah. Appreciate this, Critic Chronicles. Yeah. Yep. Essence. Yeah. A lot of times diversity means a seat at the table, but not a real voice. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for that. Yes. Yeah. So true. Okay, y'all. I think that's it for today. I will be going live with Adalia. Picky Girl Travels the World tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern. If you'd like to join our chat, I'll put that link here. And I'll be talking about the same kind of topic, choosing yourself, your life, over your job sometimes, right? Realizing that your identity is not your job. What you do is not who you are. Those are two separate things. And the power that comes from doing this, right? Like Velcro, because they're often attached in these societies that we're socialized in, that who we are is what we do is who we are. Doing this in the power of reclaiming yourself outside of what you do for other people, outside of your titles, your roles, you're you. Because you were you before you had any of those things. You were still you. So that's what we'll be talking about tonight. Oh, thank you so much for the super chat. You're so welcome. I appreciate you being here, and thank you for this. Thank you so much, C darling. Mandy Johnson says, yes, sometimes got to choose saneness over sense. Ooh, yep. Yep. That resonates. That really resonates. Yep. Thank you, Colette. Yes, please remember to like the video. Please, yes, it helps YouTube to push the video out to other women who can benefit. I appreciate that. Yeah. Please like this video if you haven't, if you like it. Reset with Celeste. Yes, and please follow Celeste's channel if you are interested in contract work, which I had no idea about before, but I wish I would have. Let me get your channel link, Celeste. Again, having ownership over your skills allows you to be able to pivot in any direction that you want. Whether that's getting another job, retiring early, pivoting into freelancing, which is what I did, going to pursuing contract roles that allow you to work 3 months at a time, go to a different role. The freedom is in your hands once you own your skills. So, yeah, I will link Celeste's channel right here. Please subscribe. You're so welcome. You're so welcome. Yes. Is your email in the description box? Is it? I'll put it here if it's not. It should be. But yes, let me scroll through just one more time. Make sure I didn't miss anything big. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, Colette says, as Black women, we represent everything toxic leadership lacks: competence, maturity, and confidence. Wow. Mm-hmm. 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 That's it. That's it. Yeah, and even thinking about what we see happening in the US, right? Yeah. How people can just ascend without any of these things that we have. It makes people mad. It infuriates people, but that's not your problem. Yeah. Safeguarding those parts of yourself, like you said, your competence, your maturity, your confidence. Because they'll try to break it down. They'll try to steal it, just like I'm not going to get into that, but yeah, it's real. Lesson says, well, if you hold your breath, there is no oxygen to flow into the bloodstream. Wow. So it hinders the natural processes, and peristalsis slows tremendously. It also keeps your brain from performing. Yep. Gotta write this down. Yep. Yeah. So Giovanna Maurice, who is a breathwork coach, she'll be talking about reclaiming your breath from a toxic job, whether you're still in it or you're still healing from the aftermath, because it's so important. Something as simple, right, that is actually really complicated, of the process of taking in oxygen, right? Because every single part of your body requires oxygen. And so, like Leslie said, like the processes that are not allowed to proceed, that are kind of stalled when we don't have oxygen coming in. Our brains can't function normally. We can't see into the future. We can't even make a plan into the future because we are in survival mode. We don't even have oxygen, which is like the thing that you need for life, right? And that's why this issue is so serious. Yeah. No, we got exactly what you meant. Thank you. Thank you. Yep. Okay, y'all. Yep. Okay. Oh, I love this, writing books. Oh, I love this. I love this. Yeah. Okay, y'all. With that, yeah, just know that you're not the problem, right? We are being targeted in the workplace because often we're brilliant. As Colette said, we're confident, we're competent, we're skilled. All these things that a lot of people have to work at. Sometimes it doesn't, it never comes, as we see happening, right? And that infuriates a lot of people, but know that you're brilliant. You're skilled, you're powerful, you are, yeah, you're amazing despite being in environments that try to convince you otherwise. And there's a reason they do that. It's intentional. It is intentional. Okay, with that, thank y'all so much for being here. Please, if you are available tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern, I'll be talking with Adelia Borishade of Picky Girl Travels the World on kind of the same topic, reclaiming your life after a toxic job. Um, so, yes, again, appreciate y'all so much. You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you for being here. Oh, Leslyn. Oh, thank you for this. Best 75 minutes I spent today. Thank you. Thank you. You're so welcome. Yeah, Celeste says it's not you. Speak on it. It's not you. And it's not you. Yeah. Yeah. And thank you, Sade. You're so welcome. All right, y'all. Until next time. Appreciate y'all being here. Hope you have a beautiful rest of your day.